Hi, I'm Jesse Hilbert.
Hi, I'm Charlie Herbert.
And welcome
to Arnavon
Adventures.
Season 3, Episode 10, the Driller or Acorn.
The Driller of Acorns. That's way better than the title I came up with, the Acorn Driller. So, Charlie, today's arthropod can be found, as it stated, drilling into an acorn in its adult stage to lay her eggs inside. And these creatures are notorious for their Pinocchio-like noses. And then what do we say, Can?
You guess what it is.
All right, Charlie, today's episode brings us to the world of the acorn weevil. Isn't that a fun word to say? Weevil. And this is the first for us here at Arthropod Adventures. We have never looked at any species of a weevil before. So I'm really excited to get into today's featured insect. The scientific name for the acorn weevil is Circulio glandium. Want to try that one?
Circulio glandium.
That was really good. It was better than me. Its genus comes from Latin and apparently literally means weevil or grain weevil. And its species, Glandium, probably has to do with the Latin word glans, which means acorn or acorn-shaped things. Although I did find some evidence of people suggesting that it has something to do with meat, which was very interesting. But seeing as how we're talking about an acorn weevil, I'm going to go with the interpretation that its scientific name literally means acorn weevil, which I think might be a first for us here, where the scientific name and common name both mean the same thing. That's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
Now, as its name suggests, the weevil's life revolves around the acorn. Do you know what an acorn is, Charlie?
No.
You do. You've seen them before. So the acorn, for those of you who do not live near an abundance of oak trees, an acorn is simply the nut of the oak tree. It has a smooth bottom half that's usually brownish in color. This is called the pericarp, and they also have this little hat. It's not really a hat, but I like to think about it as a hat because it just kind of sits on top. And this is usually a darker brown in color, and usually we call it the cupule. And these are there to protect what's inside from the harm. And for the most part, they do a pretty good job. That is until the acorn weevil comes a-knocking. Now, quick background on weevils, Char, okay? They are some of the awesomest creatures, and I know it's not a real word, but awesomest creatures that everyone should love, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And weevils are beetles, which means they belong to the order Coloptera. Want to try that one? Coloptera. Close. And they possess these large, long nose things. Yeah, these long things, right? Yeah. And they're not really a nose, it's their mouth. And it kind of looks like they're like Pinocchio beetles. Are you familiar with Pinocchio? Pinocchio was a Disney movie. So Pinocchio was this little Disney movie where when he lied, his nose got bigger and bigger and bigger, and these weevils' noses are bigger and bigger and bigger, and well, they're kind of wild. And there are lots of these animals that have these beak-like structures that they use for different things, but I will say that the acorn weevil and the weevils in general are probably the most famous long nose mouth things in the insect world. So the mouth of our acorn weevil has chewing mouth parts. That means it chews like us. You want to try chewing? And it kind of looks like a proboscis, the straw-like mouth part of a butterfly, but it's not made for drinking. The acorn weevil has the chewing mouth parts makes a perfect circular hole and makes the perfect place to lay her eggs.
Yeah.
We're taking a brief break from the show to share some excitingness. I know it's not a real word, but excitingness about a brand that we are working with called Dead Bird Ecowear. And it's more than just a clothing brand. Dead Bird Ecowear is a movement committed to restoring the earth. And as a proud veteran-owned business, they dedicate a portion of every purchase to global tree planting initiatives. Wear the change you want to be and wear the change you want to see, and make a positive impact with every outfit. Plus, listeners of Arthropod Adventures can use the code in all caps arthropod_adventures_podcast for 25% off their purchase. So join us in supporting sustainability and our veterans. Shop Dead Bird EcoWare. So Charlie, now we have eggs.
Eggs.
Okay.
Eggs.
And once the eggs
Eggs.
hatch, what comes out of eggs for insects that are not true bugs? Regular insects, out comes the larva, right? And it's a pretty bland looking creature. The larva or grubs are small, pale creatures with a slightly darker head and no legs. And we're going to quote Professor James Baker from NC State, whose article, Acorn Weevil, PDIC fact sheet, was immensely helpful. And I quote, grubs use ridges on the underside of the body to move about. End quote. I'm always fascinated how things without legs or really tiny legs move. Yeah. And I also learned here that eggs are laid in these acorns during the summer while still attached to the tree and will stay in their protective nut into the fall. When the acorns fall from the trees, this is when the magic happens. All right? As winter approaches, the grubs will create a new hole to escape from. So everyone's creating all these holes. Yeah. And it has consumed all the food it needs, which may or may not be everything inside. And it will burrow from out of the acorn and into the ground. And here it will pupate. Isn't that our favorite word here at Arthropod Adventures? They can't see you put your thumbs up. You gotta say it.
Yeah.
This is not a video. This is audio, Charlie.
Yes.
And here it will be safe underground, waiting until just the right time. And this can take a year or two before it's ready to emerge as an adult. Yeah. And this is where it will start the life cycle all over again. Now, the adult acorn weevils are a mottled brown and obviously sport that fancy beak we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. They also have two large black eyes, and honestly, the whole... What, Char?
How do lady beetles crawl?
Where do lady beetles crawl? What do you think they crawl with?
Legs?
Yeah, they're insects, so they have how many legs? Not 3.
8.
6. Now, Charlie, honestly, the weevil just screams Muppet vibes to me with its big eyes and long nose. And if Jim Henson happened to be an entomologist, I feel like the weevil would have been the first Muppet he created. The females, or the girls, have slightly longer noses than the males, and the rest of the body is pretty standard beetle-like. These are not large ones either. An adult weevil, acorn weevil, is only about 1/4 of an inch at most. So not the easiest to spot, and seeing as how they are found mostly in oak trees, they have pretty good camouflage. You know what camouflage is?
It's camouflage means that it's your reflection.
Ooh, you're on the right track. Camouflage is like when you blend in with something. Yeah.
Oh. So
many weevils are considered a pest, and the acorn weevil is no different. This is due to its ability to bore into fruits and nuts alike. And to quote Professor Baker again, I quote, "There is no practical way to control acorn weevils with insecticides because they emerge from the soil throughout the summer. If you're trying to collect acorns for seeds, collect them just as soon as they fall and refrigerate them to slow grub development, and then freeze the acorns to kill the grubs." End quote. But again, oak trees make tons of acorns, so you're probably going to be okay. So the next time you find yourself surrounded by a bunch of acorns, do yourself a favor, take a close examination, Charlie, and we want to look for those tiny little holes, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And you might see our featured arthropod. And if you get the chance to see them in their adult form, stare and awe at their impressive little beak. Yeah. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, right, Charlie?
Yeah.
If you have an arthropod you would love to hear about, want to tell us what you think about the show, or found one of our mistakes, send us an email at arthropodadventurespodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on Instagram at arthropod_adventures_podcast and follow us there. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Never stop learning. Show your show notes and never stop learning.
Stay inquisitive.
And never stop learning.
And always check out the show notes you're ready.